mean, you really believe that maybe she had just decided to disappear for a time?
For a time, and then that she would call us and we would go and join her.
Visualize the intense moment as Prince William and Harry, two men who have lived their lives in the public eye, find themselves moved to the core by a truth they never saw coming. In an unprecedented move, King Charles has brought to light a confidence kept in the shadows for years, the last most personal wish of the people's princess. This is the moment where historical silence ends and a mother's true legacy is finally realized before the world. The question that lingers in the air is why this profound desire was kept in the shadows for so long. For two brothers who have been separated by a chasm of past grievances and public pressures, this revelation serves as a mirror to their own lives, offering a chance for a new understanding. This goes far beyond a simple headline. It is a cultural earthquake that challenges the stability of the institution, reminding us that the most powerful force in any monarchy is the truth of the human heart. Within the hushed corridors of the king's official residence, shielded from the relentless glare of the media, a pivotal event transpired that would alter the crown's future. In a profound gesture of transparency, King Charles unlocked a personal safe to address the hidden burdens of his royal inheritance. This vault had reportedly remained undisturbed for decades, a silent witness to history. Yet inside lay neither crown jewels nor official decrees, but a simple sealed envelope inscribed with the recognizable script of Princess Diana. Summoning Prince William and Prince Harry to his side, King Charles presented the letter with a voice heavy with emotion. "This is your mother's final legacy. She left this specifically for both of you." A profound hush descended upon the room, marking the end of a 20-year silence. The gravity of the situation spoke for itself. Tucked inside was a handwritten letter by Diana just days before her passing, a document known only to the king and his most loyal advisor until this sudden unveiling. The letter's text unveiled a long-concealed perspective on Diana's final intentions. Her vision for her sons centered on a life unburdened by the rigid expectations of the throne. Rather than focusing on status, wealth, or protocol, her message prioritized their autonomy and personal happiness. After absorbing the words, Harry reportedly noted that her true desire was for them to prioritize their humanity over their royal heritage. To William, the gravity of this encounter felt profoundly intimate. This was far more than a simple piece of correspondence. It represented a final echoing voice from the mother taken from him far too early, a woman whose life was cut short by the very world she sought to transform. "I never anticipated the sheer magnitude of the scrutiny." The letter read, describing a life where public obligation and private peace collided in a nearly unendurable struggle. She envisioned a life for them defined by true independence. This disclosure ignited a surge of emotion and brought critical questions to the forefront. Why had Charles withheld this letter for so long? What specific pleas had Diana penned in those concluding sentences? The pursuit of these answers triggered a series of seismic shifts within the palace, threatening to reshape the very foundations of the modern monarchy. The weight of these revelations is becoming overwhelming. They are on the verge of uncovering even deeper truths that could permanently redefine the legacy of the British House of Windsor. Drop a number 2 in the comments and subscribe now, because the upcoming chapters will challenge everything you thought you understood about Princess Diana and the future of the crown. Diana's ultimate ambition was for her sons to experience true independence. The correspondence was short, but its resonance shook the very foundations of the House of Windsor. Drafted in her recognizable hand just weeks before her tragic end, this final message focused neither on wealth nor the acquisition of prestigious titles. It wasn't an act of retaliation against her adversaries. It was a mother's desperate appeal, urgent, visceral, and haunting. As one aide revealed, the letter pleaded, "Allow them to live without fear. Let them define their own lives." These sentiments were reserved for her sons William and Harry, the two individuals who anchored her entire universe. They were the sole reason she weathered every sterile state dinner, every public indignity, and every heartbreak suffered in the shadows. Diana's haunting concern was that the monarchy would recast her boys as marble statues shimmering remote and hollowed out by centuries of institutional emotional restraint. She had observed the psychological toll it took on Charles and the monarchs who preceded him. The institution didn't instruct its heirs in the art of empathy. Instead, it trained them to master a public facade regardless of the personal sacrifice. Diana sought to break this cycle for her children. "I refuse to let them be imprisoned by a life they didn't choose," she penned. "They deserve to love openly, to experience emotion, and to lead without hiding behind a persona." Within the rigid walls of the palace, that sentiment was revolutionary. It was profoundly moving. It was quintessentially Diana. She understood that one day William would inherit the massive burden of the crown, while Harry, as the second-born, would face the even more complex struggle of being the spare. Diana feared their identities would be molded by institutional duty rather than personal passion, that the weight of the monarchy would eventually erase their authentic spirits. This wasn't a call for an uprising. This was fundamentally a mission of sanctuary. As the global spotlight tightened around the family, their inner confidence began to erode within a haze of isolation and sorrow. While they gradually distanced themselves from those who could offer support, Diana endured what she characterized as the emotional vacuum of the royal institution. She had sought compassion only to find herself constrained by a rigid set of mandates. She reached out for a lifeline and was met with a wall of indifference. Though she became the most scrutinized woman on the planet, she lived in a state of profound invisibility. She was determined to prevent history from repeating itself. Yet what truly stunned William and Harry wasn't simply their mother's final plea. It was the crushing realization that their father had withheld that secret from them for more than 20 years. The correspondence was hermetically sealed, tucked into a confidential file, and submerged beneath layers of bureaucratic red tape within the king's personal vault. The motivation. According to palace confidants, Charles dreaded the impact of Diana's words not merely on the crown's public reputation, but on its delicate internal architecture. If her ultimate desire was for her children to reject the monarchy's grip, how could the centuries-old institution endure? Some insiders suggest Charles feared the message would validate Harry's departure and plant seeds of profound uncertainty in the mind of the future King William. Alternative theories suggest this wasn't an act of guardianship, but rather a display of systemic power and control. Regardless of the motive, the consequences were irreversible. The veil had finally been lifted. Both princes were suddenly forced to grapple with a reality that had been obscured for their entire adult lives. Yet for William, the gravity of the moment was far more profound. It appeared Diana hadn't merely addressed a single letter to both of her children. Back in 2004, during a modest restoration at one of Diana's former residences, a startling find came to light. a long-lost message concealed for decades was found tucked between the leaves of her private photo collection. This document, wholly unique within the annals of royal history, was written exclusively for Prince William. It bypassed all state channels, serving as an intimate rather than a formal or official decree. This was a profoundly intimate exchange, a candid and heartfelt dialogue between a mother and her child. Upon reading those passages, William was reportedly left reeling. The text unveiled a perspective that remained obscured to the public, Diana's acute understanding of the immense weight her eldest son would eventually be forced to shoulder. "The day will come when the crown is yours," she penned. Yet what followed was neither a summons to service nor a lecture on sovereign obligation. Instead, it was a poignant appeal. "Promise me you will protect the child you once were." In those few words, Diana's voice bridged the gap of decades. It was a mother's warning about the inheritance awaiting him, the relentless scrutiny, the demand for conformity, and the slow erosion of identity that so often accompanies the throne. The intrigue surrounding this correspondence deepens when analyzing its specific timeline. It surfaced not during the chaotic 1990s, but amidst the simmering tension that preceded the public dissolution of the royal marriage. One must wonder, did Charles truly hold these convictions at that stage? Was he reaching out to a high-ranking ecclesiastical advisor, or perhaps a mentor following in the footsteps of the legendary Lord Mountbatten? Within the palace, some contend this was no mere slip of the tongue, but a calculated emotional maneuver. These written words have compelled historians to reconsider the monarchy's official timeline. It raises a haunting question: could this be a nascent confession of something far more significant than previously imagined? Are we witnessing the unraveling of a sophisticated institutional concealment that has spanned decades? Unverified theories that were once relegated to the shadows have suddenly resurfaced with a new intensity. Once viewed as mere speculation, these questions about the royal succession have gained new traction following the reveal of the king's private papers. This leaves us with a haunting question: is there a hidden chapter of royal history that the establishment is not yet ready for the world to read? Everything changed with the unveiling of those hidden words. A scenario that once felt impossible now seems like a logical explanation for a series of historic anomalies. In the early 80s, Diana's health was often a subject of official concern, yet the details remained shrouded in ambiguity. We are now learning of hushed discussions between medical experts and royal staff that went far beyond public knowledge. If the rift in the marriage was already widening, could the crown have orchestrated a secret solution to ensure the future of the throne? The crown possesses both the influence and the incentive. All that is missing is a veil of silence. Charles's haunting observation, "not hers from the beginning," casts a chilling new light on the past. In this scenario, Diana may have been recruited to fulfill a public role, raising a child to whom she had no biological tie. This perspective offers a potential explanation for both the hidden correspondence and her years of quiet suffering. Some historians now argue that this is more than just conjecture. It could be the key to understanding the profound emotional void and the lifelong sense of displacement that has defined Harry's journey. If Charles was attempting to voice a conflict he had grappled with for decades, it would explain the long-standing friction noted by those closest to the crown. While their public appearances were governed by rigid formality, a distinct lack of warmth became increasingly undeniable as Harry reached adulthood. While some dismiss this as a mere generational gap, insiders perceive a deeper pattern, a systemic avoidance of vulnerability. As one former palace official observed, Charles often appeared hesitant to bridge the emotional divide with Harry, as if he were caught between a desire to connect and an uncertainty of his own right to do so. The House of Windsor has long functioned within a realm of rigid protocols and unspoken legacies. They maintain a fortress around their private hardships, demanding a uniform silence from every member of the lineage. Historically, they have resisted evolution, anchoring themselves to ancient rituals while shunning any public display of vulnerability. However, Diana chose a different journey. She gave a voice to her suffering courageously, identifying the solitude she faced and exposing the staggering weight of the crown, a reality no one had previously ventured to describe. It was this very authenticity that cemented her place in the public's heart. Prince Edward, observing with his characteristic composure, watched the internal struggle play out. He saw the royal establishment faltering to maintain its pace, while Diana's vulnerability forged a connection with the masses that the crown simply could not replicate. Her honesty did more than just illuminate her private battles. It cast a harsh spotlight on the increasingly obsolete foundations of the monarchy itself. For decades, the House of Windsor had meticulously curated their public persona. They maintained a glossed and remote exterior, yet Diana proved impossible to regulate or suppress. Her profound authenticity, which captured the global imagination, emerged as the ultimate danger to the traditional royal order. She evoked a visceral, deeply human response, transforming her into more than a defiant royal. She became an existential threat to the very foundations of the throne. The more the establishment attempted to muffle her voice, the more evident it became that their hold on the public's loyalty was slipping away. Within the walls of Buckingham Palace, an impenetrable silence has taken hold, a quiet that offers no clarity and admits no fault. Behind the vacant corridors and hushed high-stakes meetings, a palpable sense of dread is mounting. Insiders suggest the true fear isn't just this single revelation, but the specter of what else remains hidden. A royal source has confirmed that a specialized crisis management team has been mobilized, reminiscent of the unit deployed during the Sussex's landmark Oprah interview. Their objective is clear: contain the leaks, mitigate the fallout, and retrieve the original dossier. Rumors are now swirling that additional correspondence may exist, letters intended for Diana William or Harry. If even one more document comes to light, the consequences could be catastrophic, potentially triggering a legal and constitutional crisis that challenges the very laws of succession and royal inheritance. Prince William is a man who carries the weight of the truth. He has guarded this secret for decades. If he were indeed a silent participant in this concealment, it wouldn't be just a family matter, it would be a betrayal with the potential to fracture their bond permanently. The burden of this knowledge is immense. As the face of the modern throne, William has been meticulously prepared for leadership since infancy. However, following the revelation of this letter, his long-standing silence has begun to invite scrutiny and spark uncertainty. If this secret was indeed part of the palace's inner circle, it's highly likely that William has lived with it for many years. Prince William and Prince Harry, enduring figures in the global spotlight, have navigated their share of public triumphs and private tribulations. Yet no hardship parallels the devastating loss of their mother, Princess Diana. For the brothers, her passing was more than a personal tragedy. It was a seismic shift that fundamentally altered their trajectories. In truth, the once unbreakable bond between William and Harry began to subtly erode in the wake of her death. While difficult to confront, these undercurrents of friction had been mounting for decades, eventually serving as a primary catalyst for the drastic transformations in their respective lives. William was transfixed by the archival footage, captivated by the visible warmth in his mother's eyes. He watched as Diana tenderly brushed a stray lock of hair from Harry's forehead and leaned in to share a private whisper that sent Harry into a fit of laughter. While the audio remained a mystery, the physical language of her affection was undeniable. This wasn't merely a nostalgic clip. It was a long, sealed portal to a childhood William hadn't realized he had suppressed. Watching it now, he felt the sharp, familiar ache of grief, a visceral reminder that a vital piece of his history had been permanently severed. Positioned at the base of the monument dedicated to her memory, William began to speak. "My mother's voice has been my constant companion." He remarked, a solemnity in his tone that forced the world to stand still. This transcended a mere public tribute. It was an intimate unburdening of a secret guarded by the establishment for a lifetime. Bit by bit, he started to recount the final phrase Diana breathed into his ear during their last moments together. A secret message that for nearly 30 years had belonged to him alone. William also dedicated himself to dissecting the origins of Diana's turmoil. While some wounds had scabbed over others, remained dangerously close to the surface. He began a period of deep inquiry, seeking out those who knew her best, driven not by a desire to replace his mother, but by a mission to preserve her essence. To him, this was the only way to ensure her brand of compassion endured. Eventually, William's vision shifted toward a permanent tribute, one that felt profoundly authentic. He didn't envision a cold marble gallery or a sterile monument. Instead, he sought a sanctuary that felt soft and familiar, a peaceful garden, or a quiet, sunlit room filled with her photographs. It would be a space designed for reflection without judgment, a place where the world could finally see Diana as she truly was. Diana did the impossible. She breathed life into an institution that had grown cold. Before her arrival, the monarchy was a world of shadows, hidden behind layers of rigid rules and a calculated professional distance. The royals weren't people. They were icons of history and tradition expected to remain unmoved by emotion. Diana, however, rewrote the script. She didn't seek sanctuary behind guards or grand facades. She was soft-spoken yet bold, choosing to lead with her heart and showing the world that even a future queen wasn't afraid to offer a warm public embrace. She traded distant scripted gestures for a place in the heart of the crowd. She touched hands, looked strangers in the eye, and shared moments of authentic connection that felt entirely foreign to the royal script. Diana didn't just represent the crown. She humanized it, closing the gap between the palace and the pavement. Yet the very warmth that endeared her to the world was seen as a dangerous liability within the cold corridors of power. To the establishment, her accessibility wasn't a triumph. It was a breach of tradition that shook the royal family to its core. Diana's popularity wasn't manufactured. It was a natural byproduct of a heart that refused to be managed. She didn't just occupy a space at official engagements, she transformed them into moments of genuine connection. While others observed protocol, she visited the sickbeds that many were too terrified to approach. By embracing those living with HIV/AIDS, she didn't just change the narrative, she forced the world to see their humanity. Her walk through active minefields wasn't for the cameras, it was a tactical move to demand safety and justice for the victims of conflict. She didn't seek the spotlight, she redirected it toward the people the world had abandoned. The battle to remain authentic eventually left her exhausted. The strength and independence that defined her were the very things that fueled her deepest heartaches. She could no longer survive behind the mask of a dutiful, smiling royal. When she stepped into the light to share her pain, she shattered the illusion of the crown's perfection. The royal family, anchored in centuries of secrecy, found themselves paralyzed by her truth, caught in a storm of honesty they never saw coming. It leaves us with a haunting question. Was Diana the architect of the monarchy's future, or the catalyst for its collapse? Stay tuned for the answer. The role she played is impossible to ignore. Many argue that she granted the royal family a second act they desperately needed. Before her arrival, the institution's relevance was beginning to fade. In the eyes of the public, the royals were starting to resemble a museum piece, rigid, unapproachable, and locked in an outdated script. With Diana's arrival, the entire landscape was transformed. She brought a warmth and a vibrancy that reconnected a fading monarchy with the hearts of the people. She forced the royal family back into relevance, dragging them, however reluctantly, into the light of the modern world. But her presence was more than a spotlight. It was a beacon that penetrated the shadows of the institution. Many believe Diana didn't just change the family. She exposed them, unearthing the secrets and the silence that the palace had guarded for a lifetime. When Diana began to vocalize the isolation and crushing pressure she endured within the palace, she effectively dismantled the velvet curtains shielding the monarchy's pristine facade. She revealed that beneath the glimmer of the diamonds and the grandeur of the staterooms lay a rigid, insular environment defined by institutional coldness. Her unflinching honesty struck a profound chord with the global consciousness, creating a legacy of truth that decades later the royal establishment is still laboring to reconcile. Diana's life on the world stage was a grand theatrical display, a facade she perfected for a nation in love with the idea of a princess. Yet, in the quiet of her private journals, she stripped away the costume. She didn't perform. She confessed. These hidden pages reveal the raw, unvarnished story of a woman standing at the edge of a precipice. Her writings are a roadmap of loneliness and a haunting fear of total loss of self. She captured the growing resentment within her marriage, writing, "He hates that they love me more than him," as her popularity became a source of palace-wide tension. In these pages, she laid bare her internal war with bulimia, a silent, agonizing cry for help in a world of golden silence. To understand Diana, one must look at her not as a princess, but as a mother who refused to surrender her children to the machine of the monarchy. Despite the cold indifference that met her cries for help, she waged a silent war for William and Harry's souls. "They are the only part of my life that matters," she wrote. "I won't let them become shadows." She saw the trap before they did, the danger of growing up emotionally distant, obsessed with optics, and isolated from human connection. Looking back, her diaries read like a roadmap of the very struggles we see today. She foresaw a future where the frost of the royal family threatened to extinguish the warmth of genuine family bonds. However, this uncompromising honesty bequeathed her sons a rare inheritance: the permission to be vulnerable. Her collective writings, the diaries, and that final correspondence established a definitive creed: prioritize love over legacy, safeguard the heart over the hierarchy. Diana's ultimate ambition transcended mere security for her children. It was an urgent plea for their authenticity, a shield intended to prevent them from becoming captives to the sterile, unyielding traditions of the crown. The veil has been lifted, and Diana's final vision is now a matter of public record. The monarchy is standing on a historical precipice, facing a transformation that will redefine its legacy forever. This is no longer a simple domestic drama. It is a battle for the soul of the crown, Will William choose to follow the ancient script written by his predecessors, or will he fulfill the promise his mother left behind, a leadership rooted in human connection instead of institutional pride? The gravity of this choice is the ultimate burden of his inheritance. Could this revelation serve as the catalyst for reconciliation, or has the distance become an insurmountable gulf? Between the weight of public words and the scarcity of private grace, the crown's silence speaks volumes. Yet the reality is undeniable. Everything has changed. With the Elizabethan age over and the current reign aging the future of the throne, now rests with a generation rising from the legacy of a mother who stood against the machine and sacrificed everything to change it. This is purely for reference purposes, only based on hypotheses and unverified rumors/public opinion. Let's discuss it from an objective, analytical perspective. We have reached the end of this journey through the poignant and hidden words of Princess Diana. Her spirit remains a powerful force shaping not only her children's journey, but the very destiny of the British monarchy. One question continues to haunt the record. Is a reconciliation possible in the name of their mother's last request, or has the divide become an insurmountable part of their history? If this story moved you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss an update. We appreciate you being part of this story.